All right, hello YouTube people. Thanks for stopping by and checking out my channel. Today I want to introduce you to alcohol inks. If you follow my Instagram and my Facebook and you've seen my work, you'll know that I work a lot with alcohol inks. I started working with these about 3 years ago and really fell in love with them because you can create some really funky, like abstract paintings that are really fun. And the colors are just super vibrant. So a lot of people are drawn to them because when they look at them, they're just gorgeous to look at. So today I wanted to give you just a really brief introduction into the materials that you would want, kind of show you what they look like, and kind of run through just a little example of how the ink works and reacts when you use it on paper. So everything that I'm going to show you today, I do have links to in the description. So if you want to purchase those through those links, you can. They are affiliate links, so I get paid like a little bit of money if you want to buy through there, which is always helpful. But you can also find most of these supplies in your local craft stores and online. So just look around, shop around, see what you can find for the best value. If you have never worked with alcohol inks before and you are expecting that they're going to work a lot like acrylic painting or even watercolors, then you might be a little bit surprised when you first start working with them because they are kind of difficult to work with. So that's kind of one thing I wanted to put out there so people understand, because if you're anything like me, when I first started seeing the alcohol paintings, some of them look a lot like watercolors. They can be very delicate and really beautiful. But I think the colors just have a little bit more pigment in them, which makes them just pop a little bit more. But when you sit down with them, you will not be able to paint with them like you would watercolors or acrylics or anything else. So just be aware of that. I personally have used, most of the time that I've been working with the watercolors, I have been using the Ranger alcohol inks. So this is an example of what they look like, and they usually come in like packs of 3, and you can get like some different color schemes and things like that. There are a lot of brands out there I just haven't really explored. I've purchased quite a few of the Ranger inks and they've just always worked really well for me, so I've stuck with them. But I do have a couple of this other brand that they're called Copic or Copic. I don't know if I'm saying that right, so let me know. If you know how to say it, let me know. You get a little bit more ink in these, which is nice, and the colors are beautiful. I think these were more expensive, which is kind of why I steered away from them a little bit, because, you know, as an artist, I go through a lot of ink, so I'm kind of looking to get the best bang for my buck. And one thing to be aware of when you are shopping for your alcohol inks, Ranger has some really fun varieties and styles of the alcohols. So for instance, this is called Alcohol Pearl. So this is going to be different from the one I just showed you. And it's going to work differently on your paper and kind of give you a different texture and a different vibe. The pearl, it almost has like a glittery kind of thing going on, which can, like I said, it makes the colors kind of pop. It kind of makes things just look a little bit different, but they do react differently. So you'll want to know that if you're getting creative and you want to use some of these different ones, then you should know that they're going to work a little different. They also have metallic colors that I really love to play with. Again, they kind of have like a glittery thing going on. They don't spread quite as easily, but you can incorporate those to add some gold, copper. They even have one called gunmetal, which is kind of cool because I kind of like the metal. And you just get to play around and figure out what you like and what color combinations that you like to play with. But I'm going to show you in a little bit how the inks work on the paper and kind of show you just some really quick techniques to get you started. The other thing that you should purchase along with your inks is the blending solution. This is also by Ranger, and if you're purchasing on like Amazon or something, they're probably going to recommend it, right? Like, oh, other people bought this. And this really helps spread the ink out more. So if you follow any alcohol ink artists and you see those really, I call them like delicate, right? Just light, there's not a lot of color, they can be really beautiful. They are using this blending solution to help spread that color out because it is so vibrant. This also just kind of helps you work with it a little bit better. So rather than it drying up on you really quickly, I feel like this helps me to paint with it a little bit. It gives me a little more time to spread it out and see what I want to do with it. So that is another thing that you'll want to get. And then of course, the other very important part of the painting with alcohol inks is the paper. So do not purchase any old paper. And there are going to be some places that advertise alcohol ink paper, and it looks legit, and you'll get them and you'll use them and you'll figure out right away that it's just not right. So you have to use Yupo paper. Now you don't have to use this brand. Again, this is the Ranger ink. Tim Holtz, which is kind of like an offshoot of Ranger. The Yupo paper is essentially like a synthetic paper, so it's not real. It almost has like a plastic feel to it. It's glossy, kind of like photo paper, but don't think you can use photo paper because I tried that too. It doesn't work. This paper is just, it's different, and it's the only thing that you can use the alcohol inks on. Otherwise, it just gets absorbed right into the paper and you can't do anything with it. And I'll actually give you an example of that later on, and you'll get to see what I'm talking about. This is just a 5x7 size. This is what I started out with because these are just kind of the perfect size, really. You can make some fun things. It's easy to find frames for 5x7 paintings, and so if you're just getting started, I suggest starting out with this. They come in a pack of 10. So, and I think this is about $10 as well, so 10 bucks for 10 pieces of paper. Which can get kind of expensive when you're playing around a lot and you're learning the hard way, which you're always going to be learning the hard way when you're an artist. I have seen some different sizes up to 11 by 14 that come in like a pad of paper, or you can buy rolls of Yupo paper, which start to get more expensive. I've just started branching out into the rolls of paper because you have to cut them into the sizes that you want, but that does give you the option to go bigger than like 11 by 14 if you so choose. The other thing that I have, which is one of my favorite, is my paintbrushes. And I've had people comment on my paintbrushes before because they look awful. And I just want everybody to know that these really are my alcohol ink paint brushes. So they're kind of destroyed. I don't take very good care of them because the alcohol ink, it's just not the same. Like you can't just rinse them off really easily in the sink or anything. So I have separate paint brushes for my watercolors and separate paint brushes, of course, for acrylic. And these are my trash ones, right? I don't get fancy ones for the alcohol ink. I like to get those little bags from the craft store that gives you like 20 different sizes, because at some point I'm gonna throw them away once they start to get to where I can't really use them anymore. And I have just all different sizes. I'd also like to just show you my pretty glass that I got in Park City, Utah. I wish I could remember the name of the people that made it. But I loved the copper band. I think it's pretty cool. So it has become my paintbrush jar. Anyway, don't spend a lot of money on paintbrushes for your alcohol inks. Some people might argue with me on that, but that's just how I feel about it because I don't want to stress about it. And I don't want to have to think about it every time I sit down to paint. So those are the supplies you need. You're gonna need your ink. I recommend the blending solution, definitely the Yupo paper, and some paintbrushes. And let's get into the tutorial really quickly. I'll show you how the inks are gonna work on the paper and just some little quick techniques to get you started. Let's start with a quick tutorial on how the inks are going to work. So I have my inks here. I've got my blending solution and of course my paintbrushes that everybody loves. And I have some little tiny pieces of Yupo paper that I'm going to show you. And then I brought along a regular piece of paper so I can kind of show you the difference of what they look like. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get like a light, airy vibe going that I was talking about earlier in the video. So I'm going to start with my blending solution, and I am going to put some just right here in the middle of my paper. And you may not be able to see that very well because it is just clear. And I'm going to start with my regular alcohol ink. This is Wild Plum is the color. And I'm just going to drop a little bit in the middle of this paper here. And you can kind of see how, I mean, it's an ink, right? So it starts to spread out on the paper a little bit. And then the technique that a lot of people use, and you can do this in different ways, is to just blow on it, actually. So, oops. So as I'm blowing on it, you can see that it's kind of spreading out. Now, if I wanted to get a little bit more going on, I can add a little bit more of this solution, which again is helping just kind of spread it out a little bit more on the paper. I really don't have the best, I'm just kind of blowing on it. I don't have the best tools right now. I have used, so some people will use like straws to blow on it a little bit. I'm gonna kind of do like this little twirly action. Some people use straws. I have used the like keyboard clean, the duster cans are kind of fun to use. So you can kind of see how this is a little tedious, right? Like it's not gonna be super easy. You can't really control where it's going as well. But the more I kind of play around with it, with the blending solution, the more it's kind of spreading out on the paper. And you just kind of have to learn how to make it work for you and kind of what you're going for. So I don't want to get into too much detail on technique because I think everybody will have their own technique that they prefer to use when they're working with them. You can even just kind of like run it around the paper a little bit like that. Okay, so you can kind of see here where it's gotten a little bit lighter. I could keep putting the solution on there and kind of spread out that ink a little bit more and just keep playing with it until I get something that I feel happy with. I do want to show you this pearl ink that I was talking about earlier, and you can kind of just see how it's gonna run on the paper. And you can hold it up, and I kind of like getting that like drippy thing sometimes, which can add another element to it. But I know that earlier in the video I had talked about the pearl, so I'm gonna show you what that looks like. And I really wish I could get this up close, so I'm gonna try to get it up close for you so you can kind of see that it has like this glittery effect and it's almost sparkly. And I have some videos up on my YouTube that show me kind of playing around with these and adding the solution. So like if I add some more solution, it's gonna kind of get glittery again. So the thing with the alcohol inks too is I feel like it's a lot of layering to get different textures and different layers of color. So sometimes you have to let it dry a little bit and then come back to it and add a little bit more to get some colors and some different designs, I guess, right? Because it will, I don't know, it dries really fast too. So that's the other thing to remember. It does dry pretty quickly when you're working with it. But you can see how it's definitely kind of spreading out over the paper. And we're getting some different effects based on where we add this blending solution and how we do that. So I'm going to set this one aside really quick, and then I'm actually going to show you a little bit more of like if I were painting with it. So sometimes I like to just start, like if I was making a landscape or something, you can do it this way where you just paint with it. So you're gonna just put a little bit on your brush and work with it that way. Or you can like put it directly on and make some different layers that way, right? And I'm gonna have a whole video on doing like the landscapes because there's so many fun things you can do with those. So this will not be it. I wanted today's video to be just a little shorter, and you can see some of the art I've done. I think one of the hardest ones that I've done with the alcohol ink that actually turned out pretty awesome was the elephant that I painted for the Wildlife SOS organization, and it's one of their elephants that they rescued, Kalpana. I don't know how I did it, to be honest with you, but I did manage to create this beautiful elephant with the alcohol inks, just painting, which again it's not like your typical paints when you're working with it. It's gonna kind of go where it wants to go, and you have to learn to try to control it and tell it where you want it to go. So anyway, we'll get more into that in another video, and I can actually show you some techniques for making different, I don't know, designs or landscapes and things like that. The last thing that I just wanted to show you really quickly, because this is the Yupo paper, and I don't know if you can tell in the light, right, but it does have that glossy look to it. So here is a regular piece of paper that I just grabbed, and I'm gonna show you what it looks like when I put it on there. So I'm just gonna squirt some on there. See how unexciting that is? It just goes right into the paper. It doesn't go anywhere. And I can squirt that on there, and it's just gonna make it wet. It's not gonna actually like spread out. I mean, you can kind of do it, I guess, but it just, the paper's getting all yucky. So that's what it looks like, folks, if you don't have the right paper. Okay, so make sure you get the Yupo paper. Make sure that it is for alcohol inks, or it's just gonna absorb right into it, and you're not gonna be able to get the different layers that you would with the Yupo paper. All right, you guys, well, that does it for today with the alcohol ink introduction. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please subscribe. I'm going to be doing some more videos with a little bit more in-depth tutorials on how to make different things with the alcohol inks, like landscapes, flowers, all kinds of stuff. I'm also going to have some videos on mosaic art and watercolors, a little bit of everything. If you aren't already following me on Instagram and Facebook, you can find me there, Artsy Sarah, and just keep in touch with me. Watch what I got going on. I'm always fiddling with something different. So please make sure you subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know how I'm doing. And if you'd like to, you can watch one of these videos that I have on the screen here to see a little bit more. And until then, I'll see you later. Have a great day, you guys. Bye.